it's Omicron. Falcon hates puns and thinks that they're all wrong. One's American and one is an Aussie. Talking about StarCraft 2 and the esports scene.
Happy podcast day, Falcon.
Thank you, kind sir. It is always good to be here on another beautiful podcast day.
It certainly is. It's a lovely podcast day. It's slightly overcast, but what can you do?
I mean, I'm kind of okay with overcast days, personally. I mean, if it was overcast all the time, then I would miss the sun, but every once in a while, an overcast day is okay by me.
Well, I mean, an overcast day is fine, but when it's like the middle-ish of winter and like you're not getting the sun's warmth at least, you miss it. It's unoptimal.
True.
Yeah, if it was like the middle of summer and I'm like, oh man, it's overcast and it's blocking all that summer heat, I would love it. But it's just, it's not happening.
Right. So if it's already kind of cool and you're already missing the vitamin D from the sun and then it's overcast and cloudy, you're like, meh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's see. What do we have to talk about today? Oh, we read another Warhammer book.
Did you finish it?
I certainly did.
I did not. Reading a book in a week is something I'm capable of, but just not this week. I don't know, 40% of the way through. I got sidetracked a little. I have read this book before, so I can still talk about it. I just don't know where it ends and the next one begins, so I don't want to spoil things. So if you tell me where it ended, I'll try and not spoil beyond that.
Yeah, okay. So where it ends is the names are hard.
Names are hard.
But they went to the planet it's not Ultramar.
Ultramar is a region. Macragge is
Right.
a planet.
But isn't there a home planet, Ultramar?
No. Ultramar is the segmentum, and then like the core world there is Macragge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I understood that Ultramar was like a collection of planets.
Yes.
But I was under the impression it was one planet as well. Okay, good. So Macragge is kind of the home world for the Ultramar setup. Got it. Okay, yeah. So they go to the planet where the the corrupted clock is.
Okay, yeah.
And it's the last one, and then they destroy it.
Espinor or Iax or some planet like that. There's a bunch of planets in this area.
Espinor, I think, is where they are.
Yeah.
There is another one on Iax, but we don't see that one get taken down. We only see the planet get attacked and corrupted.
Yes, that's right. With God, I remember reading this trilogy and thinking there's always one human character that you can love really well and like kind of get a feel for, and Varens is that guy in this book.
Right.
He does not have a happy ending, and you should pay attention. That's kind of a pattern in the next two books, that there's a character you're gonna love and they're great, and boy do they not have a happy ending.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked Varens, but part of me was like, why are we spending so much time with this guy? And then his best friend, whose mind is gone and keeps like talking numbers and stuff. I'm like, okay, that can't be good. Why is no one else freaking out about this? What's going on?
Right, they're just treating him like he's another shell-shocked guy, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
I think you need to pay attention here.
Yeah. I guess it's fair. I mean, they see a ton of shell shock guys come through, and I'm sure they're all different in their own way. It's not like this is how people act when they have PTSD, right?
Right.
So the fact that he's doing this isn't necessarily extra scary, but they do make a point to show us that there's some writhing mass of bugs under this dude's skin that Varys doesn't see, right? But the author shows it to us, and I was just like, so come on. They set up this whole planet as like a decontamination zone. They can't detect literal bugs under this guy's skin. Everyone there's like, yeah, you're clean, you're good, come on in. What the crap?
It's okay, so the bug is like a warp entity, because they do make a very strong effort of being like, oh, we need to scan them for multiple things, like regular old pathogens, spiritual harm, if that's a thing and you believe in it.
Yeah, they bring priests in. They're like throwing holy water on these dudes. Yeah.
Right. What this shows is that these processes are not perfect.
Okay, so it's magic.
I mean, yeah, it literally is. It's a magic bug. It wasn't a real bug.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. Quite literally magic in this instance. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, but if the author's going to tell us it's visible and writhing,
well, what we see is the way he mentions it is if Varens had seen the worm-like thing burrow into his buddy's arm, the shell shock would be the least of his worries. Like it's in his armpit or something. I don't remember if we see it like they're like, oh, they make points of it writhing constantly, or if it's just that once.
It's once, but it's when they're being decontaminated. It's not.
It's when they're being
during
inspected.
the fight.
It's when they're being inspected and like being told to strip of their armor.
So you're saying we see a bug go into him?
Yeah. I mean, like I could pull this up.
When they're being inspected?
Yeah.
Why would it wait so long? Why is it like, we're at the decontamination zone. Time to go in?
Because I don't know.
I don't know either.
Like, if it burrows in there immediately, it might have a more adverse effect on the host and kill them quickly.
Okay, so like it's a timed thing.
Right, and they want it to be on the planet. Yeah, not just like in some ship.
Yeah, I mean, although the counter to that is it's magic. Like you're not setting a fuse here, right?
Right. I mean, it's magic.
Probably set it to do whenever it wants.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's magic. There's not an answer to this.
No.
So the word writhing comes up 5 times in the book. None of them are what I'm looking for here. Yeah.
Could you search for worm? I have real issues with the Kindle app.
Yeah.
Because I can't, you know how you on I don't know, Samsung, you can have this like you swipe on the corner of the screen and it pulls up the sidebar menu.
Okay.
And I can't do that without it turning the page. So instead I'm trying to swipe up to bring up like the escape just like homepage. But that also turns the page.
How did I get here? I don't know. I go, what am I? Oh, I tap. You tap, and for my app, it brings up the search and everything at the top.
Yeah,
you don't swipe. You just tap.
I got that as well.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of something that would lead to it. Least of his worries. Can we search for that?
Here it is. Found it. So, come on, old man, Varen said. He took hold of Bolus's arm again. His skin was damp and loose on wasted muscle. His regimental tattoos distorted by the sag. Time for a bath. Under Bolus's armpit, there was a brief squirming, a maggoty motion. If Varens had seen that, he would have known that battle shock was the least of what had ailed his friend. The thing turned and vanished into the cage of Bolus's ribs undetected. See, and I interpreted that to mean it's already in his skin.
I mean, it's... Whatever it is now taking refuge in his skin, that's for sure.
Anyway, they brought a magic bug in. It wasn't detected. Bad things happened.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Bad things happened.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it didn't, honestly, that Baron's whole story doesn't really help the story along at all. Like there's plenty of other worlds that get infected like this, and we don't hear about any of those. You know what I mean?
So Ajax is special. Okay, so does this book set up Mortarion and the Death Guard and all what they're doing?
Yeah. So a lot of Mortarion, he's having discussions with his buddies. They're disagreeing with him about he wants to take down his brother.
Yeah, and they're like, no, the Plague God wants work elsewhere done, and Typhus is being a dick.
Yeah, and Mortarion's like, if we take down the king, we can destroy the kingdom. And like, if we kill the kingdom doesn't matter anymore. If he has no people, it's worthless.
Right.
Like, I understand your logic, I guess.
So they're trying to do something special. Well, Mortarion's trying to do something special to Ajax in particular. He's trying to pull it into the warp. And
the whole planet?
Yeah, essentially.
Holy crap. Okay.
Yeah, lots of the gods already have like their own world. Like there is already a Death God world and like a planet of sorcerers and stuff. And he's like, I want to fuck up my brother's place by taking the prized garden, like peerless natural beauty world, and take that and corrupting it and pull it in. So it's being like other worlds. It's like, oh, Traitor Astartes just turn up and start shooting at shit. This one's slightly different. It's a demonic incursion where there's like chaos forces spewing forth, and the demons all respect numbers. Like there's a lot of like numerology that goes along with, especially with Nurgle. Like the number 7 is very important, and all these things somehow help. It's magic-y bullshit. It doesn't really matter, but they're trying to do something special. That's why we're told about how Ajax gets overtaken, essentially.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so special planet.
Yeah, it's also showing that in Ultramar that they do try medicine, like in healing their wounded instead of just like shooting them, giving them what's called the Emperor's Mercy, which is just euthanasia.
Right. Picked up on that. Yep.
So it's like even the nicer places to live are still awful in the Imperium.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's a bad time. This book happens in bad times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you say that you enjoyed the book? I know it's not as good as Spears of the Emperor, so let's not compare it to that too much.
Don't compare it to the only other Warhammer book you've ever read. Okay.
I said don't compare it too much.
Okay.
I didn't say don't do it at all.
It's a lot darker. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Spear of the Emperor is not a light and happy read either.
No.
So for this to be darker says something, right?
It's special. Yeah.
Yeah. The author really enjoys describing everything that's going on with the chaos and the undead that have risen and the Plague Father and, everyone involved with it and how gross they are, right? They're constantly having described how disgusting these people are.
Right, how the maggots worm under the flesh and the skin is detached from the bones and the liver hangs at his side and las bolts put holes in them, but they worry not,
Right, and like the intestines are hanging out through gaps in the armor, and it's like, okay, look, we get it, man. These are disgusting creatures. We get it.
Their armor is rusted and pus soaked,
Yeah, and I found that interesting too, because he makes a specific point of saying their weapons are rusted and should shatter on impact, but they don't.
Right.
Because chaos magic, I guess.
Yes.
Space Marines are like, I don't know, this shouldn't be working, but it is, so we'll treat it like a regular sword, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder, and I mean, I don't know, is this intentional? Like, is chaos magic intended to have enemies let their guard down because they're like, this doesn't look like a functioning warrior. Their weapons are garbage. There's gaps in their armor, so they let their guard down and then they get crushed because they're as strong as if they weren't all corrupted,
No, not really. Okay. So Nurgle is very much the god of decay. So everything looks decayed. It's essentially an aesthetic choice by him, I guess. But
hot stuff, man.
Yeah,
you do you.
That's what he's into. Nobody who I think knows of the Death Guard would be like, they look like they're about to keel over and die just standing there. All right, and then lights their guard down. Like maybe that happens to like unsuspecting Xenos or people who have never met them before, maybe, but there's a lot of horror in this galaxy, and I don't think that's unusual.
I mean, not that everyone's gonna necessarily let their guard down all the way, but like Felix, we get his perspective, and he's like, okay, this knife is rusted all the way through that dude's holding. He's like, there's no way that should be able to block my attack, and then it does. And a little part of him is like, what? This is bullshit. Like,
okay,
come on.
So a little bit of history for the Death Guard. They were once called the back when they were not heretic Astartes, when they were loyalist legions. The Death Guard were famed for their endurance.
Okay.
So so their resilience and toughness was something that they held pride to, and the corrupting forces of Nogel enhance that. So even though it's supposed like out of world, it's supposed to be like a mirror of what you would expect. So it looks rusted and shitty, but is way more durable than it actually appears. And
yeah, I get that. I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just saying from the perspective of the people fighting for the Imperium, even Felix, who's done this before, is like, dang, that dagger should have broke. His brain is telling him that dagger should have busted and it didn't. This is weird. That's all.
Sure. Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
I have no problems with that.
And I'm not saying it's necessarily going to win you fights.
No.
But I don't know. It's something. It's a little part of it, you know? Yeah. Anywho, I did find it interesting too that I cannot say his name.
Gulliman?
Say it?
Gulliman.
Gulliman.
Yeah.
Sure.
Some people some people call him Guillermin, Rebut Guillermin.
Right, because there's a Hispanic named Guillermo, which is spelled a lot like this, and the L's are said like a yeah.
Guillermin.
So that's where that comes from.
You can say it Guillermin. Some people call him Rowboat Girly Man.
That's fair. I mean, I don't know. It's probably not intended to be like Spanish, so Guillermin works for me. My brain just kept trying to say.
There is a world called Espador, right? Like, so maybe it is kind of Spanish.
Maybe.
But I mean, his homeworld, Macragge, is all like space Rome, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just found it interesting that they give us his death. Right? He goes in to fight his brother. He gets his ass kicked. All of his men die. He barely gets teleported out of there at the very last second. And he dies, sort of. I don't know if he dies and they bring him back for stasis, or if he just never dies and they put him in stasis. But, right?
They put him in stasis, and if they pulled him out, he would die instantly, is essentially what they believed.
So he doesn't die.
He doesn't.
But he's very close.
Yeah, so he has like warp magic poison coursing through his cut throat, which is, you know, a problem. So they put him in stasis, and they basically enshrine him at the Temple of Sacrifices or something in Macragge. And I don't remember the temple's name because I haven't read the book, but that really is where he like comes alive again. Like, that's a whole nother book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because my point was, they don't give us any of that.
No.
They're like, they give us 4 seconds of, I'm awake. What's going on? And then it's like a year later. It's like, wait, what?
Right. Okay. So there are. I recommended this book because this is the order that I read them in as well initially.
Okay.
It wasn't until sometime later that I was like, oh yeah, there was a couple of books we could have read before this one that might have helped. It's a whole deal about him coming back to life, but I don't think you really need it. They talk about it a little bit, how he's got this like magic armor, a new armor called like the Armor of Fate, and if he was advised never to take it off because the pain would be so unbearable, but he refuses to be beholden to anything anymore, so he's been slowly trying living without it to like just like learn to cope with the pain. He briefly mentions it.
It does.
Yeah, but he was basically enshrined for 10,000 years at this on his home planet, and people would make pilgrimages to him and stuff. And
so, they knew he was alive in stasis, or they thought of like his tomb?
Well, both. Like, they knew he was alive in there, but if they pulled him out, he would be dead. So it's his tomb is what they felt like. In function and respect to how it would be treated, it was his tomb.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of space magic did they come up with to revive him?
So before
why did it take them 10,000 years?
Before he died, he charged Belisarius Call, who is another important figure in this book.
Crazy genius guy. Right.
Crazy genius tech priest, who invented the Primaris Space Marines. He also charged him with finding a way to resurrect him, essentially, if he died. And he spent 10,000 years basically doing that by himself. And then with the help of what are basically the elves, the Eldar, and there's one of those in these books, I believe. Like, Gulliman has one has a representative in his Council of Psychana or whatever. Did you meet that guy? The elf?
Yeah.
The Elder? Yeah. So one of them basically used space magic to help heal him. Yeah.
10,000 years later.
Yeah. Which was a year ago or so. 5
Yeah,
or 6 years ago or something. Yeah. And
all right.
yeah.
Fair enough. I guess I was just thinking, like, how utterly impressed would you be that your empire is still going 10,000 years after you died? I'd be incredibly amazed. Like, things are going poorly, sure, but it still exists. I'd be like, holy smokes.
He is not impressed. He is not happy.
Okay.
He hates everything about it, basically.
Like, you spent the last 10,000 years losing. Way to go, everyone.
Kind of. Not only that, but losing and then degrading the foundations of which it was built. Like during the Great Crusade, they touch on this briefly, but the Emperor had the Imperial Truth, which was the Imperium is a secular empire, right? That there are no gods to worship.
Science and reason, right?
Yeah, and his armor is literally called the Armor of Reason in the Great Crusade eras. They mentioned that when he's fighting his brother. And then he gets up and he realizes that in the last 10,000 years, the entire Imperium basically runs on faith and worship to the Emperor. So he's pretty unhappy with that. But he can't dismantle it, otherwise it would tear it like the entire Imperium apart either.
Right. And he says he recognizes the importance that this faith has in the empire right now. So he's not going to shut it down. He's going to use it as well as he can. But it bothers him that they think he's a god, and it bothers them they think the emperor's a god. Because he says, the emperor has told me 1,000,000 times he's not a god. And they're like, we don't believe you. And he's like, sweet. You guys are the best.
I really like. I think this book does a really good job of humanizing the Primarch because he's not really a person. Like the Space Marines are 2 feet taller than normal people, and they've got a bunch of weird organs. This guy's like another 2 feet taller, and nobody understands their biology because there was only like 20 of them, and they weren't going to give up one for study.
Right.
And so, but it does a really good job, much better than a lot of other books that are like, oh, here's him, a guy who's like 90% of his mental acumen is logistics, planning, understanding, reason, theoretical, practical, like analysis and all this. And he's like, yeah, so everyone here keeps misquoting me, and like I'm attempting to fix it, but they prefer like what it means to them rather than what I actually said 10,000 years ago.
Yep.
Ugh.
I think that's incredibly accurate. I think any religious organization now, if one of their heroes from thousands of years ago came back and was like, oh, all this stuff you believe about me isn't true, they'd be like, nah, we're good.
We're good.
We don't need correction. It's like, yep. Incredibly accurate. Yeah, no, totally humanized. Like, I loved the interaction when he first meets his priest, Matthias, that he chooses.
Matthew,
sorry.
Yeah,
something.
The first time I read it, I was like, that's Matthias. And then I realized there's no end on the S. And I'm like, Matthew. Except it's with a literal U, not a double.
Yeah,
U.
it's the French spelling of Mathieu. Anyway.
Matthew, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Because he's like, all right. He explains why he chose him. He he compliments them. And he's like, you've got these characteristics that I need. He gives him the choice. He's like, you have a week to decide if you want this or not. And if you don't, you can go. Like, he's chill. He's really chill. It's amazing. Yeah.
Matthew is another character that I love to hate. You'll find that out in the next books if you continue to read them.
He gets a little nuts at the end of this one.
Yeah, what was he doing at the end of this one?
Well, because Gilliman is like, I chose you because you don't immediately fall on your face and have aneurysms in my presence.
Right,
That's
you don't
one of the
sing and
reasons.
cry. Like, but internally, he is that fervent. And so it's the end of this book. They're on Espinal, and he's like, stay back, Matthew. Like, there's pox here. And he's like, the Emperor will protect me. And he walks along and is totally fine without any, like, breathing gear.
Yeah, he's like, I've been in this area the whole time. I'm doing great. And Gilliman's like, that's real weird, man.
And so, given that he is fine, is the Emperor protecting him?
Well, that's the thing. Well, okay, so Gilliman's really fond of these little mental logic exercises, right?
Yes.
So one of his points is, if the emperor can do everything a god can do, does that mean he is a god?
God, right?
So, but like, if he was a god, he would have won the war. Like, the empire would not be being destroyed if he was a god. When they say god, what do they mean?
So it's my point about Thor being a god. Like, is Thor a god now? Like, is he literally a god, or is he just something like a god?
Yeah.
Because the Emperor did win the war. When Horus corrupted his brothers and fell to chaos, the Emperor technically won. He killed Horus, and then they drove the traitorous forces into the Eye of Terror. But he was mortally wounded, and like the Jesus metaphor is that he is mortally wounded and interred on the Golden Throne, where he lives immortally but in suffering. So that's him dying for like our sins, kind of a deal. That's what the Emperor in Sacrifice means, when Matthew's study or whatever has like a like a fresco or whatever on the wall of the Emperor in Sacrifice.
Right.
So he's not all powerful when they say he's a god, but they do believe that he's always watching. He on his golden throne, he powers the Astronomicon, which is a giant lighthouse in the warp, so that ships can sail by its light. So he is fundamentally important to the like everyday running of the Imperium, and he can kind of see everywhere, and he kind of talks to people in dreams and visions. Maybe, and some people claim that he is, but they might just be heretics lying to try and get power. It's a very confusing.
It is.
To be a priest, yeah.
So I don't know. Like, it would have helped. Like, it would have helped to have them define what a god is, because Gilliman is 100% convinced that he's not, except the fact that the Emperor can do all this amazing stuff, which kind of seems like he is. So, so they don't mean omnipotent, omniscient.
No, I mean,
okay,
probably not. Like, if you're just like a regular pleb and someone says you worship the Emperor because you're a human in the Imperium of Mankind, they probably do tell you that he is. And so they might believe that he is, but I don't think he actually strictly is.
Okay.
Because you got to remember that a lot of this worship, it was like not what the Emperor wanted, right?
Right. Well, and Gilman talks about he doesn't want relationships with people at all. He's like, I'll let you call me your father, and I'll call you my sons sometimes, but I don't really mean it.
Right.
Like, he sounds like a robot. Yeah.
The Emperor is not a good father in any means. Like, Gulliman knows this, especially because he was one of the few Primarchs to have an actual dad, Connor, like King Connor of Macragge, who actually raised Gulliman like a real daddy. And so he knows the difference, and he's very acutely aware now that the Emperor sees his sons more as tools rather than extensions of his family. Yeah,
and Gilliman says, when I came back and visited him after I got resurrected after 10,000 years, his response was that of, hey, I found my really useful tool under the bench after a while. It's good to have it back.
Yeah.
Like, there's no sense of, oh, my son, I love you. I'm so glad you're alive, right? None of that.
None of that from the Emperor.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's tricky because, like, part of you is like, well, the Emperor's not a good, whatever he is, good god, a good person.
He's definitely not a good person.
But he's fighting against chaos, which seems pretty important. I don't think chaos is good for anyone.
Nope. He's kind of positions himself as the lesser of two evils, maybe.
Yeah.
But as we've seen in Spears of the Emperor, humans aren't strictly being treated all that well anyway. And, like, that's the point of the Pure, the guy that they have, like, captured in the hold, who's like, you're all toiling at the hands of awful tyrants anyway. We're just slightly different to you guys. We're just worshipping different gods.
Right. But my interpretation of that was, a big reason the life of the average human right now in the Empire is that everyone's being drafted into service, and you're constantly just either making food to feed the troops, or purifying people that have been tainted by chaos, or you're fighting on the front lines, or you're serving in one of the ships, and it sucks. But that's what you do now. So it's not good, but only because chaos is trying to kill everyone. Like, it's because there's a war on. Is it always this bad?
Well, that's the thing. There's always
Is that the whole point?
There's
Warhammer. It's everything's always at war. That's the point of the universe.
I mean, kind of. So during the Great Crusade, it wasn't any better, but chaos wasn't as prevalent as it is at the moment. So there was always like orcs to fight, or some other Xenos that were so terrible they had to be scrubbed from history, or the Eldari, right, or just other humans. Like there's always someone to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I mean, like 10,000 years ago.
Yeah. Chaos wasn't known.
It this bad? So was it this bad for the average human as it is during this book?
Gulliman would say no, because he always thinks back fondly to those times, better times.
Yes.
So probably not.
Okay.
There was a lot of like reconquering, because humanity had one galaxy-spanning empire, and then it crumbled. And the Great Crusade is the Emperor rising to power and reconquering everything. So there was a lot of, you conquer this planet, now you have to meet reconstruction quotas and then tithe quotas by the Adeptus Minotaurum and the Council of Terra and all this. So it was always hard and harsh, and maybe you didn't get along or like the Empire, but after 10,000 years, it's gotten even worse, but now you're just used to the enslavement, essentially.
All right. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I guess my other question was, are the people corrupted by chaos? Are they they seem self-aware?
Okay, so I would just also like to point out that there are people who live relatively safe and happy lives. Not everyone is in service. Like, most people are, but it is possible that you can be a hive worlder. Like, a hive city is just like cities built on cities built on cities. The hive spires breaking orbit sometimes, and they held billions of people, and you can have 3 or 4 hive cities on a planet. And like, you can live, and you're like, oh, I work at the haberdashery here in the hive, right? It's this terrible existence. It's you've got family and friends and food and drink and entertainment of sorts, right? You can have there are relatively normal-ish lives going on. Okay, just that aside. What was your question about self-aware chaos people?
Yeah. So, like, if you've been infected by chaos and you've been turned, how self-aware are you? I guess my big... Okay, so here's... I just realized this. It really comes down to, if somebody wanted to be like, I'd like to go back, please. Can you? Do you have the will to even have that thought?
You might have the will, but there's no letting go, right? Like, chaos, the powers that ensnare you and trap you will not let you go. Because they fundamentally like consume part of your soul in the trade for power.
Do you have to willingly do it?
That is an excellent question. My understanding is yes, but you don't necessarily always know the extent of what you're agreeing to. So you might be coerced or tricked, but there's always the choice at some point. And it can be a slow choice and a gradual change into it, as it is for like a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because so the 4 major chaos gods are Tzeentch, Slaanesh, Nurgle, who is the big player in this book, and Khorne. Khorne is like a skull god, blood for the blood god, skull for the skull throne. And there's a lot of warriors in the Astartes, the Space Marines, who are very focused on warfare. And so they might be influencing or be influenced by Khorne without them knowing, and it's just kind of like a slippery slope for them, where it's like, if I get a little too bloodthirsty in combat, I could find myself with dark thoughts. And then, Space Marines live for, they're effectively immortal, but usually their job kills them well before then. That's how they find themselves in the dark places.
Right.
Damnation lay that way.
Yeah. No, I get that.
So I assume it's choice, but in like a grand scheme of things, it's like a marble can only run where like on its path, where the path leads. Essentially, it's an unfortunate truth in a marble run game.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, the soldier, everybody in the Imperium is basically convinced that they're traitors. They call them traitors. You
Mhm.
chose this. You chose
Yeah.
chaos.
Hmm.
But like, I think I don't know. It's probably easier for them to kill their ex friends if they believe that, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
If they
True.
think they were taken, then it's a lot harder to gun down somebody that you knew. You know?
Right. So the there's chaos cultists, like hordes of just regular people that aren't Astartes, who are more or less just like a mindless horde of people who they're basically slaves. Like the traders will go out and just pick up random, like attack a planet, pour huge amounts of the living humans into like mass bulk carrier spaceships, and then like torture them. And those that
Yeah.
enslave them. And some of those people will choose to serve chaos essentially rather than die immediately. Um, when
Mm.
Felix is in the first part of the book, when Felix is attacking this last tower, and he's like an inceptor on the ship, and he mentions it there that these people get no mercy, right? Even though that they're
Yep.
now pleading for their life, that they were only trying to survive. There is no redemption for these people.
Right.
Um, that's kind of like a lot of what the chaos cultists are. Not a lot of them are like, I've looked at worshipping the Emperor, and I've looked at worshipping chaos, and I think chaos has got some good perks. Better dental plan. Like, nobody's really rationally making that decision. A lot of people are just corrupted by power or interests or like gifts that the gods can offer. And
Hmm.
yeah.
I just figured what it's felt like to me for Felix was it's not so much there's not mercy available because they can't
Mm.
change their mind. It was there's no mercy available because they made their choice and they're dying now.
It's honestly put both. Like,
Hmm.
there's no mercy because it's like, oh, you were corrupted by chaos. Let's just let you back into the Imperium. You can talk
Right.
about your experience and all this, information that is sequestered from the general public. Most people don't know about the Chaos Gods because if you were working your 16-hour-a-day shift, no days off, and living in a 1 by 2 foot hab unit with 12 other people, you know, and then you found out that there were gods you could pray to, and they might give you strength in exchange for, a little bit of your soul. They probably might take that. So
Yeah, but
it's like
also your guts are hanging out of your stomach now. I don't know how
well,
hot that sounds.
that's just Nurgle. They could pick someone else. You could pick
Is it
Chaos on.
better other places?
Depends on your definition of better. Like,
Are there aspects of this that physically are horrific?
I mean, you might get turned into like a bird. You might you might end up with two heads, one that can see the future and one that can see the past.
Yeah. So there's a lot of body horror going on. I'm just
Oh.
not sure how much the average human would be like,
You could pick Corn and be swelled in physical prowess, right? Like he might just offer you strength of physical body, and you're
sure, but might.
yeah, well,
That's the trick here. Might.
might. I mean, if you can,
Yeah.
Whatever, please the god somehow, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
But
I just
that's that's the point. Like, this information is sequestered from the general public. They don't know this because it would be a huge risk for demonic incursion on every planet. So you can't just forgive the people who are like, no, I've changed my mind. Please let me back. They're just way too big of a risk.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, okay, so a lot of German fairy tales are like, do not trust otherworldly beings. They will promise you things and they are lying to you. It will go bad every time.
Every time.
So maybe just do that. Like, just teach the kids when they're little. Like, yeah, there's other beings out there. They'll promise you things. They're lying, and it will screw you over every time. Just indoctrinate them against this whole concept, right?
They indoctrinate them in that worshipping the Emperor is the only choice. There is no choice. It is the only path.
Fine, I guess.
Like But there's a quote that they have. It's like, "Blessed is the mind too small for doubt," right? Where it's like, if you can't doubt the emperor, you'll be blessed, right? Like with a good life, essentially.
But then they're not, and then they're like, "This sucks." The Emperor's balls.
They don't know any different. What they have might seem like a good life to them. It's like, well, we're working 18 hours a
Yeah.
day, but you could be working 20.
I'm just saying, I think it might be more effective if, fine, tell them the Emperor is awesome, but also teach them the other gods are bad, right?
Mm,
There's other forces out there that they will promise nice things, but they're lying, and your guts will hang out of your stomach, right?
right. It's a big deal that when you so if you pledge allegiance to Nurgle, you don't feel pain in your form, right? Like you don't look
Yeah,
when you look upon yourself, you no longer feel that disgust or anything like that. So teaching them that there's someone there that will offer you things, and you won't be bothered once you feel it.
yeah, but don't tell them that. You don't have, look, we're talking about propaganda here. I'm
Right.
not saying tell them the truth.
I think that their thought process is it's easy just to tell them nothing, right? Like these people are told nothing.
Yes.
Uh,
I guess, but then the people on the fringes who run into this, they don't know any better. All they have is the emperor is good. My life sucks, but the emperor is good. Like that's not enough. I
yeah, that's kind of the point. Yeah, that
right.
is
So they're
that,
doing it wrong. That's all. I'm smarter than everybody in the Imperium. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
that is kind of the Emperor's plan when he was alive to try and starve chaos by like having people ignore them. So a big point is that some of the Astartes and the Primarchs fell to chaos because they didn't know what they were dealing with. That the Emperor deliberately held that from them. Like he didn't trust them, and that's part of
Right.
the dissatisfaction between Guilliman and his dad. Is that the Emperor
Yeah.
did not tell us about this?
And so
Um,
Horus fell to it. Partly, Gilliman believes because he didn't know what he was dealing with.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was also God, fuck Erebus. That's all I'll say. Maybe you'll read those books one day, but don't worry about it. It's not important for this book.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's just how Horus fell. He was like stabbed with a magic blade, and they're like, we can take him to a healing lodge, which was a secret chaos cult, and then they performed a ritual, and it's like, how much of a choice
Oh.
did this guy really have? Like,
Yeah. What the crap? That's not fair.
they played to his ambitions and his charisma, and like, he's like, oh, the Emperor's not even waging the crusade anymore. He went to Terra. You've been doing all the hard work, buddy. Surely you
Right.
deserve the throne. And it's like, you could either die here, or you could just be the messenger for these other gods who want you to believe that the Emperor's just messing up their homeworld. And if you just go and stop him and take the throne, they'll be at peace and they'll leave you alone. And he's like, that sounds like a good deal.
Right. It's classic.
Yeah.
Classic, like temptation.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to take advantage of different personality traits of your
Right.
target. Oh yeah, all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Normal stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the best part is, like, if you're dealing with someone who's arrogant, it's just so much easier.
Oh yeah, because you can just play into that. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is this. I'm owed this. Of course I am. I'm me.
Yeah, you tell them what they want to hear, and they'll do it. Yeah,
Pretty
brilliant.
much. Yeah.
Sweet. Anyway, it was good. They kind of fake you out at the end because you think that Gilliman's going to end up fighting his brother
Mm.
because they take down the clock and then a tear opens in the warp and they're like, "Ah, crap, we're getting ambushed." And they're like, "Oh, it's Snake Brother." And it's not. It's another dude we haven't met yet. And I'm like, "This is not what
Who was
this
it?
guy existed. I don't even remember his name."
Oh, was it the demon that's like, I will be there at the end of time?
Yeah, he's like, "I am unkillable," and Gilliman's like, "A lot of people have said that, and I've killed all of them."
So
He's so unimpressed. It's amazing.
so that demon. So there are several demons that represent fundamental aspects of nature. So there is like a sword who is like the incarnation, who was like a demon that was forged during the first murder, and he's a powerful demon because of it. Like he was the first murder in human history, and that forged a demon because the warp is a reflection of the physical world. This demon is what happens at the end of time. That's where he's forged, and then he just kind of exists timelessly, but he will always be around until the end of time, even if Gulliman kills him, right? Which I think he does. He kills him with the Emperor's Sword, which is like a +1 to demon killing.
It's a lightsaber, effectively, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I have Gulliman's model, and he has the sword, and it is really powerful when you play him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it too that he's like, I don't know how this works. Like, I've tried figuring out the science behind this thing, no idea, and I won't let anyone else deal with it either. So,
right,
it's real good at killing stuff. he's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it lights itself on fire when you unsheath it.
Mm-hmm.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic cool stuff.
So you enjoyed the book, is what it sounds like.
I did. Yeah.
Even though it's a little dark.
I liked the other one better.
Yeah, the other one is a better book.
Yeah.
Nobody's arguing that.
Okay.
I was looking at one of the most recent Warhammer games, Chaos Gate, because I've been doing this DALL-E AI generated artwork, and I've been giving it descriptions of games and trying to make it make images based on that. And I was looking at this game, and its story was written by the guy who wrote Spears of the Emperor. Like the story in that was written by him.
Yeah.
So that's something he's done since releasing Spears of the Emperor and not writing the sequel.
Right.
Yeah. So
classic author move. Doing anything but writing the sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times. All right.
So how many books are in this series of
two more, three. So 3 total, 2 more.
So it's a trilogy?
It's a trilogy, yeah. The Dark Imperium trilogy, which is amusing because it's set in Imperium Sanctus rather than Imperium Nihilus, which is colloquially the Dark Imperium.
Right.
Yeah. Good times. Keeping it simple as always.
As always.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So is there anything else to talk about this week, or is it just all book?
Well, I finished Elden Ring.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
100%? Deathless?
100%. Yeah. Death hitless. Didn't take a hit from anything.
Didn't take a single hit. That's impressive.
No. I'm gonna be at Games Done Quick next time.
I mean,
speed ran it and didn't take any hits. It was amazing.
Oh, okay. What was your time?
About 3.5, 3:36, I think.
It's 3 days, right?
No,
total playtime.
minutes.
Oh, minutes. Okay.
No, the current world record is like 6 minutes. It's glitchy as hell.
Oh, it'd have to be.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine it's not.
Right. It's a lot of flying under the map to get places.
Yeah. So you've played 139 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
one playthrough is a lot.
It's a lot. Are you going to play more? No.
So what happened was I got stuck on Melania because I think everybody knows she's the hardest boss in the game.
Sure.
I was trying different Ashes of War, some different strats, different little assists, things like that. Nothing's really working. I mean, I am just dying. It's so frustrating too, because for these 2-stage bosses, you learn the first stage and you get a rhythm, right? So you can get through the first stage pretty easy. The second stage is harder, and that's where you start dying.
Right.
But every once in a while, as you're running it, you just start failing on the first stage again, and you're like, I'm gonna kill myself. I don't want to die here anymore.
You
this feels like it's such a waste.
you can't get to the part of the part that you need to practice. It's like, I should be able to do this.
Right. Like I had this down 30 minutes ago. What happened? Anywho, so then eventually I went and got an Ashes of War called Bloodstep Hound.
Okay.
Where instead of dodge rolling, you like teleport.
Okay. So it's like a blink.
It's really good for dodging this one AoE attack that she does that's horrible. So it took me a while to figure out how to use that. And then I just started anyway. Just made a lot of choices. And I got her. And I did it. Eventually it happened. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Good. Congratulations.
Yeah. So then I go through to where I think the end game is, because Melania is in a different place. It's weird. Like she's not part of like geographically in the same area as the end game boss is.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I knew where the end game boss was. So I went there, and there was a stupid knight on a horse guarding the front of the dungeon. He kills me like 8 or 9 times. I'm like, these dudes, they're not even bosses. They're just like open world guys. He was so hard to kill. And then I go through, and I'm like, all right, final boss, a one-shot of it. I'm like, that was underwhelming. What's going on? And then it was not the end boss at all.
Go figure.
There were 4 more bosses after that one. It was amazing. So anyway, and again, I don't have as much trouble with the boss after that. Maybe 3 or 4 does. The boss after that was like 2. The boss after that, maybe 5 or 6. Like Melania was just crushingly difficult. And then the final boss, which is interesting. It was kind of different from every other boss fight, and that one did kill me a bunch. I think that was maybe about 15 to 20 times that I died. So it was a good chunk of deaths, but nothing near Melania's. I want to say like 50 plus deaths. Yeah, she was she almost got me to stop the game. Every time I'd be like, and then go back into Elden Ring. I'm like, but Melania. And I was like, I'll come back later. And then last Saturday, I was like, screw it. I'm going to take her down. And then I did. It was great.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So the final boss is interesting because it's called the Elden Beast. It's this real big thingy. And it's a huge fighting arena. And a lot of the match is you running to where the boss is so you can hit him.
I have heard the theory that it's supposed to, like, originally you were supposed to be able to do it on horseback.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that because so much of that fight is just like,
it's like
slash. And then it's like to the other side of the arena. And you're like, so slow. Yeah. If you could summon Torrent in there, your horse, it would be a lot better.
Can you do it with a ranged weapon? Like, could you just stand in one spot and shoot across the map? Like
no, the distances are too far to shoot.
Oh, okay.
Even if you're ranged, you have to hoof it a good distance to get in range for your ranged attack.
Okay.
It's worse for melee, without a doubt. No question. For me, it was a lot worse. But even for ranged people, it's a lot of running. Yeah, it would be nice if you could just stand in the middle and no matter where they went, you're like, pew, pew. Nope.
Nope, not happening.
No, not happening.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Anyway, it was good.
So you're going to move on to another Souls-like game?
I don't know. Not for a while, probably.
Not for a while? Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm wondering how much of the fact that I enjoyed this game as much as I did was that it was open world, because I just have an open world thing. And if I got into, a Dark Souls 2 or 3 or something, Bloodborne, and it's not open world, and it just kind of feels like I'm in a hallway, and I'm like, you know?
Right. It feels like a boss rush game where it's just like, you fight one boss. All right, now you fight the next boss.
Right. And I mean, in fairness, that's a lot of what Elden Ring is. But you can choose where to go.
Yeah. Right. You choose the path that looks interesting and then fight the boss there.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the tags for Elden Ring on Steam, and one of them is relaxing. Which I don't believe you, Steam.
No. No, definitely not. That's funny.
It's like The Sims 4, American Truck Simulator, Stardew Valley, Elden Ring, Power Wash Simulator, and House Flipper.
Are those the top selling games?
Those are ones on top selling under relaxing. Yeah. It's like one of these is not like the other.
Elden Ring fans be trolling? Yeah, definitely not. I mean, okay, it did get to the point, which was nice, where I had killed most of the stuff on the map.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to do everything because that's the open world, like, completionist part of me. So I went back and explored around and find caves that I'd missed or found bosses that I'd missed in this corner of an area that I thought I'd searched, but I hadn't, right?
Right.
And that was nice because, like, for the first time, I'm fighting stuff and I'm not, getting killed in 2 hits. Like, I'm actually able to survive a little bit during this fight, and I feel strong. It was wonderful. So that was a little respite. Like, leveling up was hard, and the end of the game with Melania was hard, but in the middle there, when I was just going around,
It was like a fun
random
little action RPG where it wasn't everything
Yeah.
that's gonna kill you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was great. I was like, "Oh, you're big and strong." Ha ha, dead. Yeah, I'm amazing. I guess I'm over leveled incredibly here, but whatever.
I'm also big and strong, it turns out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. You don't feel big and strong because you keep finding bigger and stronger bosses to kill you. But you are. You're getting better. It's just you can't realize it until you fight something a lot weaker than you. And it was nice. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Good,
What
good.
else is going on?
Not a whole lot that I can think of.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah.
I like
slow
the
week.
Rainer and Cyril interaction that you posted in the Discord server. That was great.
Sarah wants to fight Rainer. It looks like he's getting him. What'll happen if if he plays his Protoss? I'll get a free win. Sarah. Good humor.
And then Rainer, you wish, buddy. Yeah. What server is this supposed to be in? Is it just made up?
No. It's in Cyril, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
I
sense.
saw someone talking about it on the Reddit. It's like, oh, no, this happened in Cyril, so.
Makes sense that Rainer's in there.
Yep. Go figure.
Excited for him to play in GSO.
He officially qualified. So.
Of course. Is it too late for Cyril to sign up?
Yeah. Yes. Qualifiers. I believe it done.
All right. Bummer.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
I
think it's a good wrapping up point. Put
Agreed.
a bow on it.
Okay. Sweet. So that is going to be it from us today. This has been Summicron and Falcon Paladin with another edition of the Falcon Paladin Hour. You can find the VOD for these on YouTube, on Summicron's YouTube channel. You can also support it directly at patreon.com/Summicron. Additionally, buying merch supports the podcast too. You can do that at falconpaladin.store. And until next time, as always, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And until next time, you take care of yourself.
Bye.
Goodbye.